The cold metal bars dug into Lyra's wrists, leaving angry red marks that burned even when she didn't move. The dim light above her cage flickered and cast shadows across the walls of the alien outpost. The place smelled of smoke, oil, and decay. For months, no years, she had been trapped here, a living prisoner, treated like an animal. Every day was a struggle, every moment a reminder of the chains that bound her. Her mind, sharp as ever, struggled to remember who she once was, a scout of her people, skilled and proud. Now, she was nothing but a shadow of herself, a frightened creature that cowered when someone approached. Most days were spent sitting quietly, conserving energy, avoiding trouble. The guards didn't care if she survived or not. They were paid to bring her here, keep her there, and move her along for whoever would buy her next. They called her a beast, something to be sold, something to fear. But they never saw her as she really was. She had intelligence, skill, and spirit, but all that seemed useless behind these chains. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of heavy boots on the metal floor. The guards always moved with authority, their eyes sharp, their weapons ready. Lyra shrank into herself as one of them approached with a whip, letting it snap through the air just to scare her. She flinched, expecting pain, but he only laughed. "Move faster, creature. I don't have all day." The chains rattled as she adjusted herself, careful not to anger him further. She had stopped hoping for rescue long ago. No one had ever shown her kindness. And yet when the human convoy arrived, everything began to shift in a way she couldn't understand. The outpost had a routine. Mercenaries came and went, supplies arrived and left. But no human had ever lingered near her cage long enough to notice her presence. That changed when a young human maintenance technician named Evan was assigned to the supply team. Evan moved with purpose, unloading crates and checking systems in the storage bay. His attention was on his work until a faint sound reached him. A quiet rasp of breath so soft that at first he thought he was imagining it. He paused and scanned the room, his eyes catching the flicker of movement inside a cage. At first he assumed it must be some kind of alien animal, but as he stepped closer he froze. The figure inside was not an animal. It was a young woman. Her face was streaked with dirt and blood, her hair tangled and matted. Her eyes, wide and terrified, followed him cautiously. Evan felt a pang of guilt and disbelief. How could anyone treat a being like this, intelligent and alive, as nothing more than a pet? When he asked the guards about her, their casual cruelty stunned him. "Just a beast," one of them said, shrugging. "Good for selling." "Don't waste your time." Evan's jaw tightened. He couldn't ignore her. She was scared but not weak. Even chained, there was a fire in her gaze, a defiance that had survived despite everything. That night, after everyone had left the main compound, Evan returned quietly. He brought water, food, and a clean piece of cloth to wipe her wounds. Lyra, startled by his presence, did not attack, did not flee. She only stared. It had been so long since anyone had shown her care that she wasn't sure how to react. Evan spoke softly, carefully. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said. "I want to help. Can you understand me?" Lyra's lips twitched. Words felt foreign, awkward on her tongue after so long in silence. She only shook her head slightly, but her eyes betrayed her curiosity. She leaned forward, not expecting kindness, not trusting it, but unable to resist it entirely. For days, Evan returned, each visit a small act of rebellion against the cruelty around them. He brought scraps of food, water, and news of the world outside her cage. At first, Lyra watched silently, unsure if she could trust him. But slowly she began to respond. Gestures at first, small nods, a look that conveyed understanding. Then cautiously she spoke. Her voice was hoarse and fragile, but it carried intelligence and a spark of the woman she once was. Evan learned her name, Lyra. He learned that she had once been a scout, respected among her people for her skills in exploration and combat. The mercenaries who captured her had lied about her abilities, demeaning her to make her seem like nothing. Lyra had believed herself to be lost, abandoned, and powerless. But now, a single human had shown her a fraction of respect, and it was enough to awaken hope. Evan knew that leaving her in the outpost was no longer an option. Every day he saw the marks on her wrists, the bruises on her skin, and he felt a growing anger toward the guards who treated her this way. One evening, under the cover of darkness, he made a decision. He would free her. He did not yet know how. He only knew that he could not leave her behind. That night he returned with tools. Lyra watched with a mixture of fear and disbelief as he worked to unlock her restraints. The metal chains clanged softly as they fell to the floor. She raised her arms, touching the fresh welts, feeling the air on her skin for the first time in years. Evan extended his hand toward her. "Trust me," he whispered. She hesitated, the memories of cruelty pressing in, but something inside her stirred. A desire for freedom, a desire to live on her own terms. Slowly, cautiously, she took his hand. The sensation of contact, warm and gentle, was alien yet comforting. She let him lead her out of the cage, feeling the chains fall behind her both physically and mentally. The outpost was dangerous. Guards could appear at any moment and the alarms could blare with little warning. Evan guided her through maintenance tunnels, explaining quietly how to move without being seen. Lyra, though weakened, proved herself capable. Her reflexes, honed from years of scouting, helped them avoid patrols and security measures. For the first time in years, she felt like herself again. Not a captive, not a prisoner, but a person with agency. As they moved, Evan learned more about her world, her people, and the injustice she had suffered. Lyra listened to him as well, surprised by his compassion, his willingness to help without asking for anything in return. A strange bond began to form between them, not of ownership or control, but of mutual respect and trust. Hours passed, the tunnels twisting and turning, until finally they reached the outer perimeter. The night air was crisp, carrying scents of distant forests and rivers, freedom itself. Lyra took a deep breath, filling her lungs with air that had never felt so pure. Evan looked at her, a mix of relief and admiration in his eyes. "You made it," he said softly. Lyra did not respond with words. She did not need to. The look in her eyes said everything: disbelief, gratitude, and a glimmer of hope. For the first time since her capture, she smiled. A small, tentative smile, but one that held the promise of a new beginning. They paused at the edge of the outpost, the dark landscape stretching before them. Freedom was not guaranteed and dangers still lurked. But for the first time, Lyra realized she could choose her own path. She could fight for herself, for her people, and for a life that had been stolen from her. Evan extended his hand once more. "Come with me," he said. "I'll get you to safety." Lyra looked at him, then at the horizon. For a moment, doubt clouded her mind. Could she trust a human? Could she truly believe that kindness existed in a world that had been nothing but cruelty? And then she stepped forward, placing her hand in his. The chains were gone, but the courage to walk freely was something she had reclaimed for herself. Together they moved into the darkness, leaving the outpost and the nightmare of her captivity behind. The journey ahead would be dangerous. There would be guards, patrols, and questions from both humans and aliens. But Lyra no longer felt powerless. She had Evan by her side, yes, but more importantly, she had her own strength rekindled. That night, under the stars, she realized something she had not felt in years. Hope. Hope that she could live. Hope that she could reclaim her dignity. Hope that she could one day see her people again. And perhaps somewhere along the way, she might even discover that not all humans were cruel. Some, like Evan, were capable of changing lives with a simple act of kindness. For the first time in a long time, Lyra felt free, not just physically, but in her heart. And that freedom was just the beginning. The night air was cold against Lyra's skin, but she barely noticed. Every sense was alert as she followed Evan through the forest that bordered the outpost. The ground was uneven, roots twisting beneath their feet, and distant lights from the compound flickered faintly behind them. They had to move quickly. The mercenaries would notice her absence sooner or later, and when they did, they would come searching. Evan kept glancing back, his expression tense but calm. "We have to stay low," he whispered. "They'll send guards if they find the cage empty." Lyra nodded, gripping his hand lightly for guidance. The chains were gone, but the fear still lingered in her mind, a shadow of old memories that refused to vanish. Yet with Evan beside her, it was no longer paralyzing. She felt a new strength rising within her, a spark that had been buried under years of captivity. Hours passed as they moved through dense forest. Lyra's instincts, sharpened from her years as a scout, guided them around patrol paths and hidden sensors. She marveled at the simplicity of Evan's knowledge. He knew machines, systems, and mechanics, but navigating a forest required trust and instinct rather than technology. Somehow they complemented each other perfectly. Finally, they reached a clearing where Evan had parked a small, concealed transport craft. Its engine hummed softly, blending with the sounds of the forest. Lyra's eyes widened as she approached. She had seen spacecraft before, but never imagined she would escape in one herself. Evan opened the hatch and gestured for her to enter. "We can get off this planet tonight," he said. "It's risky, but staying here is more dangerous." Lyra hesitated. The thought of leaving the planet that held her childhood, her past, and even the place of her captivity was overwhelming. Yet the possibility of freedom, the first true freedom she had known, was too precious to ignore. She nodded and stepped inside. The flight was tense. The craft lifted silently into the night sky, avoiding detection by the outpost's radars. Lyra sat beside Evan, her eyes scanning the stars. For the first time in years, she felt a sense of awe untainted by fear. "You're amazing," Evan said quietly, glancing at her. "I've never met anyone so strong, even in situations like this." Lyra looked at him, startled. I was weak," she said, her voice soft. "For so long I believed I had no power." "You had power all along," Evan replied. "You just didn't see it because no one treated you like you mattered. I only helped you realize it." Her heart swelled at his words. She didn't know if she could fully trust humans yet. But Evan had shown her a kindness she had never expected. Something warm stirred inside her, a feeling of connection she had thought lost forever. They flew in silence for a while, the stars stretching endlessly around them. Then Evan spoke again. "Where should we go?" "I mean, your people. Can we take you home?" Lyra hesitated. The thought of returning to her homeworld brought both hope and fear. Her people had lost her to these mercenaries, and some might not welcome her back easily. Worse, some might see Evan as a threat. But she knew she couldn't stay hidden forever. I need to go back," she said finally. "But I'm not sure I can go alone. And you've helped me already. I don't know if they'll trust you." Evan smiled faintly. "We'll figure it out together. You're not alone anymore." Hours later, they approached the orbit of her homeworld. From above, Lyra's eyes widened at the sight of her planet's vast landscapes. Rivers glimmering in the sunlight, forests stretching like green oceans, and cities that sparkled with life. Memories of her youth, her family, and her role as a scout flooded back, mingling with the terror of captivity. The craft landed in a hidden valley near her people's settlement. Lyra and Evan disembarked carefully, staying low to avoid detection. The wind carried the scent of familiar flora, and for a moment Lyra closed her eyes, letting it wash over her. She felt alive in a way she hadn't in years. They approached cautiously. Her people noticed them almost immediately. Warriors emerged, weapons drawn, eyes sharp and suspicious. Lyra froze. Even though she had returned home, she wasn't sure if they would accept her, or worse, if they would see Evan as another captor. "Step back," one of the elders commanded. "Who is this human?" Evan raised his hands, showing he meant no harm. "I am no captor," he said calmly. "I helped her escape from those who treated her cruelly. I only want her to be safe." Lyra stepped forward, her voice steady despite the fear in her chest. She spoke in her native tongue, her words clear and commanding. "He did not chain me. He broke the chains. He saved me when no one else would." The tribe paused, their expressions unreadable. They studied Evan, searching for deceit but found none. Lyra's words carried truth, and her people could see the fire in her eyes, the fire of the scout they once knew. Slowly, the tension eased. Weapons lowered and murmurs spread through the crowd. Evan let out a quiet breath of relief. He had worried that they would never accept him, that his actions would be misunderstood. But Lyra's courage had spoken louder than any words he could offer. One of the elders, a tall woman with silver hair, stepped forward. "You've returned," she said softly to Lyra. "We feared you were lost forever." Lyra nodded, tears welling in her eyes. "I was lost," she admitted, "but not anymore. He helped me find my way back." She gestured toward Evan. "This human is not my captor. He is my companion. He saved my life when everyone else ignored it." The elder studied Evan carefully. "You risked much to help her," she said. "Your actions honor our people." Lyra felt a surge of pride. She had feared she would never reclaim her dignity, that the chains had taken more than her freedom. They had taken her identity. But standing here with Evan at her side, she realized she had regained more than just freedom. She had reclaimed herself. The tribe invited them to stay, offering food, shelter, and rest. Lyra and Evan accepted, but she knew her journey was not over. She needed to confront her past fully, to reconnect with her people and ensure that no one could ever enslave her again. Over the next few days, Lyra trained again, regaining the skills she had lost. She ran through forests, scaled cliffs, and practiced combat drills. Evan watched her, quietly supportive, learning from her movements and listening to her stories. Slowly, they became partners, not of captor and captive, but of equals, companions who trusted each other completely. One evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in fiery colors, Lyra and Evan stood atop a hill overlooking the valley. She felt the wind on her face, free and untamed, and she realized she had never felt so alive. "You saved me," she said softly. Evan shook his head. "No, you saved yourself. I just helped you remember who you were." Lyra smiled, a full, radiant smile that reached her eyes. "Maybe, but I couldn't have done it without you," he smiled back. "And I wouldn't have wanted to face it with anyone else." For the first time in years, Lyra felt hope for the future. She knew challenges lay ahead. Some of her people still feared humans. The mercenaries would not give up easily, and she would have to reclaim her place among her people. But with Evan by her side, she felt ready for anything. That night, under the stars, Lyra finally slept without chains, without fear, and without doubt. She dreamed of freedom, of adventure, and of a life where she could choose her own path. And when she awoke, she knew that this life, her life, was only just beginning. Together, Lyra and Evan would face whatever came next. No chains, no captivity, no fear could hold them back. They had discovered something stronger than any prison: trust, courage, and the simple but powerful truth that freedom was worth fighting for, and that sometimes kindness could change a life forever. And in that moment, as the first light of dawn touched the valley, Lyra understood fully that she was no longer a prisoner. She was alive, she was strong, and she was free.